Is this new eBay feature a complete waste of your time? We're going to look at one of the new features eBay put out there for your listings. Hey, Don here. Today we're going to look at one of eBay's newer features. It's the listing quality report that you can download from the hub from your performance tab. It should be right up at the top. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at mine, one I just downloaded right before this video, so we can address and talk about what it is telling us. Is it giving you good information that's actually going to help you? Or if you follow what it states, will you do worse? You've got to look at most of this with a grain of salt, and you have to look at it from your own business knowledge and understanding to get the best use of anything that's offered to you on eBay, or really any platform for that matter. So the file that downloads is a spreadsheet. You can open it up in Google, or if you have Microsoft Excel, you can open it up with that. That is what I have done. I use Excel, most Microsoft products, because I've used them forever and they work just fine for me. Now this is the basic overview, the main section, the main page of this report right here. Now it gives you some breakdowns by category, by what you have up. This is just the top 10 categories that it says I have the most live listings in. Now it gives you a bunch of recommendations. The recommendations are, in my opinion, quite suspicious the way they're worded and what they state. Now in the top one here, other Victorian trade cards, a category that I sell in, it's telling me to add brand names to 1,726 of those listings. Now I have close to 20,000 listings, I think, in this category section basically alone. I'm ranked by what eBay says is the #1 seller in this whole entire category. I don't know if that's true. They would have the information, but I know some of these, when it gives me ranking, there's no way my ranking is correct from what I can see. Other things to consider here, it's giving you specifics. It says 33% of the brands filled out in this. So it's telling you that 1 in 3 people have the brands filled out for every one of their listings. I don't see that's the case unless eBay's forcing you to put them in there. Other than that, it doesn't seem to be a viable thing to even recommend, because again, we're talking about trade cards and things that just have like a name, a last person's name on it as the brand. People running their own stores and things like that. That's a large chunk, the vast majority of all cards in the Victorian trade card section. So their recommendations, from what I see, mean absolutely nothing. It's also stating that the small minority is who is using those in the first place. Probably people who don't understand the uselessness of things like that and are putting the stuff in based on eBay recommending it, and only that. Now it goes into some recommendations for vinyl records. Fill in at least 9 recommended item specifics. Most of the item specifics are ridiculous and totally useless and will not help you sell it, from my opinion of selling records for 25 plus years. Things like a album name for a 45 or a 78. Those don't exist for most of the singles. Lots of the things on there just are totally meaningless to put in there. So again, this is something that I don't see is going to do anything other than waste some more of my time. Off the bat, most of the information no one's going to be looking for. If somebody wants an Elvis 45 with Love Me Tender, that's what they are going to type in, and they will get it, or they should. I know eBay's search results are just terrible these days, but it should just show you just those items. You shouldn't need to center in or do anything else if you don't want to spend the extra time as a buyer. Now, we're talking as a buyer. It's not even, there's no reason to find 9 item specifics for a 45 record. I can see the duration of the disc, whether it's a single EP, but again, it's a totally useless recommendation. From what I see, a lot of the recommendations on these sheets are either to get you to put in the item specifics that they've been bugging us for and messing up constantly, or to get you to promote your items. Those are the key things that you can take away by looking at mine, or most of the ones that people have shown me. People have sent me theirs as well, so I can compare them. So we can look at what numbers eBay's giving us and what totally is useless information or not. Now, in vintage and antiques, It goes into promote 1,044 of my listings. Why are they recommending this? Because they say 67% of listings with the most impressions in eBay search in this category are sponsored with promoted listings. Now, that may be fine and dandy for those who want to do that. A lot of people are under the impression that you have to pay to promote just to get your item shown. And eBay's telling you that right here. They're telling you you're going to have a far better chance of your item showing if you pay for them to show them, which is crazy that that's what they're trying to get you to do. A lot of people may have jumped on the promoted listing bandwagon because of forums and statements quoting these numbers. They're not showing you success rate. Now, if they told you 67% more sales would come by using this, that would be a different story. That's not what they're telling us. The impression count does not equal sales. It does not equal sales. If the right person's on to buy your items, especially in vintage and antiques, it's going to sell. If they are not on, it is not going to sell. I sell things that have been on for years for full cost out of the clear blue because the right person was on, and I do that all of the time. If they can prove, hey, if you do this, you're going to get more money, that's a different story. But again, that's not what they're quoting us here. Now, they also state, make sure there are 7 photos in your listing. Now, in this section, I list buttons and all kinds of other things. I could not imagine taking 7 photos of buttons. So for those of you who may have an item that only really needs 2 or 3 photos because it's something simple like a piece of paper, you're going to be taking more based on eBay's suggestions, and those extra photos may do nothing for you other than waste your time and your labor and money because of that. So be careful at what it states on here. These aren't facts. These aren't anything else like that. And again, it says most listings with the most impressions. It doesn't say sales. It says impressions. We're not talking about sales here. This is, in my book, misleading for those who don't understand how business structures work and how things like this happen. If you can't test it or see it in your own store, you're going to take someone's word for how things work. I'm not going to pay to promote my listings. I don't need to sell them that bad. I don't do the race to the bottom or anything else like that. But I surely don't waste time taking 5 or 4 extra photos of every single item because eBay says to. Now, some of these are a little misleading. Now, this is a postcard section. I list a lot of postcards and things from California because there's a high demand and a good value in those items. As you can see, it lists that section here. Now, here's their recommendation. It tells me to promote my items. Again, something I would lose money to do. I don't see in here where it says promoting at this point would cost you extra. So again, if you're not up on this, you're new, it says promote, you may just go ahead and do it because it says that in here and not realize that it's going to cost you money. Now, another very deceiving or I guess misleading point here, again, in my opinion, on average, 37% of listings with the most impressions in eBay search in this category are sponsored with promoted listings. That tells me that the majority, 63%, feel it's not necessary to do it, and they are just fine with that. I am one of those. So why would you tell somebody to do what very few people are doing? Again, it could be because the people who aren't doing it understand that it's not necessary. If you've got a one-off, you're just going to have the right person on to be interested in it. That's plain and simple the answer. You being recommended to promote it is not going to help you most of the time. It's going to just give away some of your money. This is a tool. Promoted can work in certain categories, but any of the categories I sell in, it's just going to take the right person. Either way, these are buttons in the sewing button section. They're all uniform military buttons. Now, I know my stuff. I know my areas that I sell in. I've got pretty much every price guide. I've talked to the people who write the guidebooks. You know, I've got a nice collection myself. It's telling me to 59% should, again, promote. So again, most of everything I've discussed here that they're telling me I should do is either item specifics, which are useless to me, and promoted, which again is useless to me, but that's what they're telling me I should do. So you really need to understand what this is saying and what you should or shouldn't do based on your own assumptions as opposed to what eBay is telling you to do in these cases. But when you look at some other factors in here, I'm the 16th highest seller in this category, these sewing pre-1930 buttons. I'm number 16 out of over 2,600 by what eBay states. And I am not in that 59%. So that means one of the top sellers in that category doesn't use the promoted listings, and I'm doing just fine. I am that person. So this information, if you're not paying attention to where you rank or anything else like that, and what your business structure is based on this, it is going to be misleading again. If I'm number 16 in the whole category and I don't use this, I'm in the minority, but yet I'm doing better and not using that feature. Hopefully that makes sense, because again, this is misleading if you don't understand what they're breaking down here for you. Now, merchandise, memorabilia, and labels. I rank 44 out of over 1,000 people selling it. They're telling me to add brands. A lot of these things here are roller skating labels. There are no technical brands. There would be a single roller skating arena, or whatever you would want to call it, one single building in one single city that's advertised on that each one of those separate labels. So there would be no sense for me to have to go back in and retype or add that information in, because no one's going to be looking for that they can't find by just simply typing it in the title. The Denver Stadium label, you type in, or roller skating label, you type that in to find the item. Nothing else would really have to break down. It would be more confusing to a buyer and would take them far more time to do any of these other aspects of it. Again, they're going into amount of photos that they recommend. We're talking paper labels. They are telling you you need 8 photos. 8 photos, which is crazy for a piece of paper. Again, we're under labels, paper labels. This is the section that we're talking about. 4, I could see, is a little bit much for a paper label. 8 is just crazy and wasting your time again. So you're going to have to look at your own sheets. Most of what I see has to do with promoting your listings, which is a paid feature that they are recommending you pay them more money, which doesn't necessarily say anywhere in here that you will get more sales. It just says more impressions. You may think more impressions may mean more sales, but that is not the case. If more people look at it because it's pushed to them, but they weren't interested to begin with, they're not going to buy it. All it takes is the right person online to see your items for it to sell. Now, they don't break down every single section here. You'll have to go down and look through the individual links down at the bottom to figure out which this is. Now, some of these could be buttons, some of these could be all sorts of different things. Now, they got a click-through rate they've added here, and it says on average you get more click-through rates if you have 8 photos. Well, you know, who knows? We don't know if that's going to, again, equate to more sales. I would far rather know how many sales come out of using one of these options. Impressions, the click-through rate mean nothing, again, if you're selling vintage and collectibles, because, again, it takes the right person online. Some items, there's just a keyword. One good keyword in there, a change, can get your item sold almost immediately. That would be far more important, having better keywords, than ever promoting it. If your keywords are terrible and you're promoting it, it still may not help you again. Understand these numbers. In this section, I am 19 out of 951. I don't use them, neither do the 62%. Again, the vast majority of people don't use them in these sections either. This is a Civil War section, I do believe, that one right there. Quantity usually rules out, and most of this other stuff is just a waste of my time. For some people, these breakdowns may be very, very helpful, but for antiques, collectibles, vintage, I have found that they don't help me at all. All these seem, again, is to promote, paying eBay to promote your listings, or filling in information eBay keeps bugging us about, the item specifics that mean nothing, basically, for most of the time for the items you are selling. Now, they also do Google shopping, giving you some issues that supposedly are things that you need to fix and address. Now, I've looked through these. I've used the word best and cheapest groceries because that is the title of the card, and they're kicking it out because I'm using best and cheapest in there. One key thing to think about, if you put the quote marks in there, that usually alleviates that. That's really the only one in here that I could see, and that technically should not be an issue. Now, this one on top of it is, I use the word cheap. That's what is actually titled on the card again. Quote marks will usually get rid of that if you're unaware. Otherwise, just remove those words. Now, out of all of my almost 30,000 listings, all of them are showing up, but these small handful here. So the item specifics have nothing whatsoever to do with your items showing up on Google. You can see it by looking at eBay's own report as well. So all of the things they keep telling us to put in item specifics are not because of them showing up or having issues with Google. That is not the case. Now, some of you may have different results. Some of these, again, make no sense. Invalid age group, which I've seen across the board on things. I don't know how they're aging things, or stating an invalid age group, but they're dated by the time the item was printed, so I don't know what their thing is here. Invalid or generic image. Again, these are fine, legit, non-generic images, so anyway, I'm not paying any attention to this. If they're not going to show these items, but yet I can have them broadcast out from other platforms, the very same items, it's got to be something to do with eBay and how it's showing the information. Maybe there's some tag buried in here by accident or something, and that's what's going on. Well, there you have it. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
The car with a brain. The car you program yourself to go where you want, do what you want.
Yours is going under the table. It's programmed to come out again.
Amaze-O-Matics, Chevrolet Astrovet, Buick Century Cruiser, Chrysler Charger, and Ford Mark IV. Amaze-O-Matics from Hasbro.